BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello there, I'm Liam McLeod, and this is the Scottish Football Podcast on Thursday, the 13th of March 2025. And just the small matter of a Europa League quarter-final place up for grabs this evening. And the referee has blown for full time. And it is a famous victory for Rangers here in Istanbul, because they put Fenerbahce to the sword on their own patch. Rangers pulled off one of their greatest away European victories in last week's first leg. Now, can Barry Ferguson's men finish the job?
See if you get this place rocking, it's a proper place to play football. And when you go out with a certain attitude to play the game, there's no better place to play football.
Ferguson and co in a terrific position after the first leg, but he's not the only manager with something to say.
I think Rangers is not a better team than us. And I think we have a chance of qualifying.
Can the special one engineer a comeback for Fenerbahce? It's something he's done plenty before.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Well, thank you for listening and for downloading and hopefully subscribing to the podcast as well. We're, of course, with you every day. And I'm delighted to say I'm joined today by Michael Grant, the Times Scottish football correspondent, and our very own chief sports writer, Tom English. Hello to you both.
Hi, Liam.
All right, Liam.
Michael, have you recovered from Istanbul? You were out there with me last week.
I have recovered, Liam, yeah.
Listen, Rangers shook up what was expected last week to be a Fenerbahce win. And in many quarters in Turkey, I think certainly a comfortable Fenerbahce win. Let's kind of reflect on the 3-1 win for Rangers. And it could have been 5. The Dessers offside goals are so marginal. The two Glasgow teams have been unlucky in that regard. Remember, Kyogo had 3 goals ruled out against Young Boys, I think it was, in the Champions League. Where do you think, Michael, firstly, this leaves the tie?
Well, Liam, I'll be honest. I'm not sure I hold out any hope for Fenerbahce, really.
Wow.
Yeah. Listen, they could prove me wrong, but I must admit, I didn't strongly fancy them before the first leg. And I know that they had a great unbeaten record of 18 matches going back to December. But I wasn't convinced. You know, you are still talking about a team that's out with one of the big 5 leagues. Their Europa League form had been pretty ropey, to put it mildly. I think they finished 24th of the 24 qualifiers. So sometimes I and maybe others are guilty of overestimating these European teams that we see, Rangers and Celtic especially, playing. I just had a sense that Fenerbahce might not be that strong. And I think that was probably justified in their performance. I thought defensively they looked wide open for a Mourinho team especially. Now, none of this has taken away anything from Rangers, who I thought were so clinical and clever, and they executed a game plan brilliantly. But I cannot see Fenerbahce keeping a clean sheet at Ibrox, and I think that's what's probably going to put them out.
I mean, the record had been good over those 18 games, obviously, and they'd only actually lost one of their previous 13 home games in the Europa League, and that was the Bilbao game in December. They actually quite a lot of draws in the league phase. It was enough to get them over the line on goal difference ahead of Braga. But it was one of the, Tom, great Scottish football results in Europe, wasn't it? I mean, outside of finals and semi-finals and what have you, it was impressive in that regard, despite what Michael's saying about Fenerbahce.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you know, it was 3-1, and that's the least that Rangers deserved. As Michael said, you said it could have been and possibly should have been 5-1, and it should be definitely tie over. But I thought it was a remarkable performance from Rangers. The confidence of it, the danger that they had going forward, the solidity that they had at the back, this twin personality that this team has, which is just utterly perplexing. It's got to be the weirdest Rangers team ever. They're just a bonkers crew. And I to be honest, I thought I was different to Michael. Michael was right, as it turns out. I thought that Rangers, I keep thinking the Rangers are going to get found out in Europe. As they go along, I think, okay, look, this is a team that lost to Motherwell, lost to St Mirren, lost to Queen's Park. They can't keep doing this European thing, but they keep on doing this European thing. And look at Fenerbahce. You could tell from early on in the game, and you guys were there. I was in the studio, but it's very clear in the studio. The noise level was remarkable. The atmosphere was remarkable. For these Rangers players to cope with that, embrace it, and to just put Fenerbahce away was remarkable. But you could tell early on that Fenerbahce were no great shakes, despite a cast of characters in their team. That's pretty impressive on paper, but as a collective, they didn't look very good at all. And at the back, they looked very, very poor.
Well, yeah, and again, the fact Rangers scored 3 goals against them there, despite them looking poor, it's the first time they'd done that in a European knockout game in tournament proper on home soil for the first time since February 2007. So, they might not have been impressive in Europe, but the fact that Rangers have gone there and scored 3 times is all the more remarkable. And looking ahead to the second leg this evening, Rangers, of course, just need to not lose the match by a couple of goals, which would obviously take it to extra time. And Michael, in Rangers history, they've never lost 4 successive home matches. They, of course, are standing on 3 just now, having lost to Queen's Park, St Mirren and Motherwell. And that's what Barry Ferguson said immediately after the game last Thursday night was, this is great, we celebrate tonight, but we need to sort the home form out. They don't lose, they go through. Simple as that. Yeah, I mean, both managers came out with this kind of, it's only half-time, the game is still alive. But I think it was genuine from both of them. I mean, it had to be from Mourinho. He couldn't say anything else. But I think I sensed, and maybe you did as well, Liam, that there was a genuine kind of respect between the two of them, between Ferguson and Mourinho. Certainly from Ferguson to Mourinho, I thought he spoke very respectfully about the danger posed by a Mourinho team and that they're not out of the running yet. So listen, that is where the game is. But it's interesting. I was looking back at the statistics of the first leg, and all this kind of shows you how misleading statistics can be sometimes about matches. All of these are in Fenerbahce's favour, right? 57% possession, 22 attempts to 8, 40 attacks to 15, 7 attempts on target to 6, 10 off target to 2, over 500 passes to Rangers 280. But you were there, Liam, and I was there, and Tom, you'll have watched it, and none of that feels like an accurate reflection of the way the game was, because
I agree. Yeah,
Rangers did so much more with their attacks, and they looked far more clinical than Fenerbahce did. A lot of the Fenerbahce chances, if you would call them that, were kind of desperate, late kind of punts and pot shots into bodies and so on that, they count as a statistic, but they aren't really a threat in the match, So, all of that really, to me, just demonstrated that Rangers executed their game plan really cleverly. And I think you also give Ferguson credit for that, because if you were doubting Ferguson, you would think that maybe he's just about passion and the badge and all that sort of stuff. So I think that was a really impressive night for him, because he wrong-footed Mourinho probably, and certainly all of us, with the way the team was set out for a start. That took a bit of guts to do that, especially when they didn't really have that much time to work on that system. And it worked, It gave them a foothold in the game from the start, and it gave them a platform to spring. And one final thing I would say is, Dessers and Tierney were on one of their hot nights, and we've seen plenty of nights when they're not. And, the second leg might be another one. But when Rangers needed them, the two of them really stepped up. I thought they were both excellent.
Yeah, I mean, it's arguably Desser's best game in a Rangers shirt. He actually, despite the fact Rangers have had so many issues this season domestically, Dessers is actually putting together a very fine season. I just wonder if he just goes the same way, Tom, the 3 at the back for the second leg. Does he just go with what he did last week?
You'd wonder, like, on the face of it, why would he change? Because it it worked very well. Clearly, the players were very comfortable with it. They made it work spectacularly well. So why go away from that? It will be interesting to see if he does see it differently than that. But we don't know yet. We'll find out later on. What he's got to do is got to send them out with the same kind of belief against all odds that he sent them out with last week. You know, this is a team, obviously, we all know about their travails domestically. They make no sense, Rangers. They just make no sense. And I know everyone say, oh, look, you know, it's difficult for them when they're playing against teams who play the low block and are defensive against it. Yeah, but they're playing against teams domestically, playing against the low block, who are not very good. And you think Rangers, this team who can compete and beat some very, very good teams in Europe, should be capable of overcoming the low block domestically. And they've found the devil's own job to do that. Yet when there's a bit more space in Europe, they come alive. I scratch my head constantly when I watch this team. I scratch my head when I see players who are devoid of confidence and belief and accuracy, just metamorphose into a serious player in Europe. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they deliver. I'm not sure if he's going to change it. It'll be very interesting to see if he does. But most of all, I am intrigued to see what kind of attitude Rangers have. They now have a 3-1 lead, very, very handsome lead. What did they do? Did they come out and just pretend it's a 0-0? Or did they come out in an attacking sense to try and get the goal that Michael spoke about earlier on, which would definitely kill it off? But if they go into their shell a little bit, I still think there might be life in Fenerbahce. I'm not writing them off just yet. One goal, Rangers open the scoring, I think it's done. The life goes out of Fenerbahce. But I think there's a bit of a kick left in this Mourinho team. I'm not sure how big a kick, but I think there's a kick.
Well, let's find out if Barry Ferguson was giving anything away at his pre-match media conference.
See if you get this place rocking, it's a proper place to play football. And that's I've told the guys that, and they know that. They know how good they've played, and some of the guys that are in the squad have played in European nights here. And when you go out with a certain attitude to play the game, there's no better place to play football. So we'll go on and we'll brace the challenge tomorrow night, because, as I said, it's going to be a different game in my opinion. But we need to stand tall, and we need to go head to head with Fenerbahce, because they'll come and they'll go for us. So we need to be strong in the mind. But I certainly believe, that my group of players over the last 3 days certainly know what's going to come at them. So we're prepared for it.
Yeah, Michael, it's a 2-goal lead, and what Ferguson will be very keen to avoid is losing an early goal in this game, because then all the seeds of doubt return. Ibrox gets edgy, the fans are edgy, the players get edgy, mistakes start to happen, recent memories start to come back. If they can get the first goal, it could be party time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, we always say it, but the first goal is important. But I think in this second leg, the first goal almost certainly if Rangers get it, I think it settles the tie completely. I don't think Fenerbahce coming from what would be a 4-1 deficit on aggregate at that point. If Fenerbahce get it, you're right, because Rangers' recent form has been so poor at home, because they've had so many setbacks and so many blows. I mean, it is astonishing, because the debate since the first leg, or a little bit of debate, has been around, well, does Barry Ferguson deserve the job on a permanent basis? I mean, there's almost been a rush to get to that point. I mean, Rangers' last home game was a defeat to Motherwell. Which just ties into what Tom's saying about this kind of weird polarisation of Rangers' form. But I think you're right, Liam. I think if Fenerbahce do get the first goal, they're emboldened. They'll feel they're back in the tie. They've got a foothold, and listen, even their tactics might change if they get 1-0 up. You might see them altering things, because I think it's going to be really difficult for them. I think the way the tie is at the moment really plays into Rangers' hands completely, in terms of they've got to come on to Rangers, and that again will leave space at the back, which Rangers could score again on a counter-attack. Listen, your only worry about Ferguson might be whether he gets so emboldened by getting things right the first time that he does something bold again, or he wants to change it again. I would be tempted to just treat it like 0-0, as you say, and treat it not like it's a home game and you have to please the supporters by entertaining them. Entertain them by getting through. And I think the same approach as last week would be enough for that.
I think if this was a very professional 0-0, every Rangers fans would be even more impressed by Ferguson. That he shut it down, no dramas, no hair-raising moments, just a good professional hit. 0-0, get through. That would be mega impressive, actually. A 0-0, you should sign up for that right now. No great scares.
Yeah, Walter Smith masterclass, if that's the
case.
case.
Yeah, that kind of thing, Liam.
Yeah.
It's also worth saying, Liam, that Butland did make a couple of big saves last week.
One of them was out like world class level, wasn't it? The one in the second half.
Yeah. So that. Maybe you're right. Maybe I am too dismissive of Fenerbahce's threat, but so it did need that. It wasn't just Dessers and Czerny. I thought they were defensively very impressive, and Butland did step up. He's had a lot of criticism, and rightly so, recently, but I thought he really did them well in that first leg.
As much as I love hearing from Tom and Granty here, I think it's time to tune in to what Jose Mourinho has said to the media in his pre-match media conference at Ibrox. You love it, Tom. What are you talking about? Let's hear from him.
The best thing about Fenerbahce last week was Jose Mourinho's press conference afterwards.
When he was pretending to snore, when the local journalist was asking him a very long-winded question. I mean, it was difficult not to sit in the front row and laugh at that, but I have to say he actually offered to take that guy out for lunch afterwards, so I think that would probably more than make up for it. Anyway, let's hear from Mourinho.
I think Rangers is not a better team than us, and I think we have a chance of qualifying. It's not hurted, or it's not I want revenge, or we have to go there and to show we are better. It's nothing about that. It's just the fact that I honestly think we are better. But as I was trying to be very honest after the match there, and even today, we deserve to lose. We deserve to lose. And I didn't use at that time a penalty that could be a penalty. Fred that was suspended and is a fundamental player for us. I didn't try to use anything because we made mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, as much as Rangers were great in Istanbul last week, Fenerbahce were poor. I mean, Mourinho said they were poor everywhere. And he was also at pains, as Michael mentioned earlier, to say that this is only half-time in the tie. Ferguson said that as well, to be fair. I don't think, Michael, that they can be as bad as that again. And they've also got one of their best players back in the shape of Fred, who was suspended last week.
Yeah, you would assume that Fred will come back into the midfield. I thought Dzeko and Nasri didn't really impress that much, but Nasri especially has got a lot of goals this season. Was it 25 or something like that?
26, yeah.
26. I mean, they have a lot of players over 30, but he's not one of them. So he is going to be a threat. And I think there's a lot of people that have written off Mourinho as well, haven't they? I think there is I don't know if it's resentment towards him or whatever. There shouldn't be from the media, because the guy's been an absolute star who's delivered for journalists for about two decades,
And he delivers trophies, and five of them have come in European competition. He's the only manager to win all three of the current UEFA competitions.
Absolutely, yeah. And Fenerbahce crave that, because I don't think they've reached a final, let alone won a European...
Semis is as good as they've done.
It was interesting, Liam, because obviously in this country we think that some of us think there's too much obsession about Rangers and Celtic and kind of internal title races between those two, right? But we were sitting in the press box in Istanbul last week, and a few minutes before the game, this Turkish journalist suddenly appeared with a camera, and his phone, his camera phone.
He came up to me as well, yeah, but obviously I didn't have time, Michael, to facilitate that,
he had to go through your age group and so on.
That'll be the day.
But he was saying, he was saying, he was very polite, and he was saying, who do you think will win the Turkish league, right? So, and of course, you don't know what the answer is.
You probably didn't want to say Galatasaray in that stadium, given what was going on around about us.
You don't know what answer he wants to hear that's going to get you out of the ground alive, But I must admit, I did say Galatasaray on the basis that they're 4 points clear,
7 now. Yeah.
Now seven, exactly. And he asked about half a dozen of us, and he asked yourself, and he never said, like, who are you and what paper you're from. He just wanted an opinion of who's going to win the league. But I thought, it was fun and all the rest of it, but I thought it was quite interesting that they have that obsession with the title race in Istanbul. It's probably, in fact, it will be more so than the Europa League stuff. It's like, who's going to win between Galatasaray and Fenerbahce? I just got even from that little moment, I thought you just get the sense that that's a constant. And Mourinho is under pressure now because of that 7 point gap. He's got a game in hand, but Galatasaray are looking pretty strong. So you wonder, does he need the Europa League more than ever if the title race is beginning to slip away from him? So I would imagine they'll put up a ferocious attempt to rescue this tie in the second leg, but I'm not sure I can see them doing it.
Well, that's why Mourinho's at the club, isn't it? It's why they spent so much money. They haven't won the title since 2014. They've had to sit there and watch Galatasaray win it most of the time. Besiktas have won it a few times, and we even saw Istanbul Başakşehir come to the fore a few seasons ago. He is under big pressure, I would have thought. I'm not sure he kind of feels the pressure, though, to be honest, given what he's achieved and given
he does, Liam.
Yeah, do you think so?
I think he does. I think
didn't come across that way last week, but
but I think he feels the pressure because maybe in part because of his own ego. That he obviously wants to win a trophy for the club, but he wants to win it for himself as much as anything else, to put that in his record. And I think losing to, and please take this the right way, but Mourinho losing to Rangers would not go down well with Mourinho, because I know for all of the positive things, and he was very respectful and very complimentary, genuinely so, about Rangers and Barry Ferguson and all the rest of it. He will have come into this tie, I'm convinced, thinking that Fenerbahce were going to win it, because this is Mourinho, and he doesn't go into ties thinking that he's ever going to lose. That's why he has been such a brilliant manager, that his self-confidence is through the roof. So I think this would be a big kind of a black mark against his name from Fenerbahce fans. They would not have been expecting this, would they? The Fenerbahce fans last week would not have been expecting to be routed by Rangers in their own place. No chance.
And there's no half measures, is there? Because if he does turn the tie around, he's a genius. He's still got it. It's classic Mourinho, a masterclass at Ibrox. If they get knocked out, he's a spent force. Who's losing to a rookie manager who's got 4 games under his belt at the club that's put him out. So the stakes are high for his reputation to a degree.
Yeah, well, we shall find out if the special one loses out to the interim one tonight at Ibrox in the last 16 second leg in the Europa League. A place in the quarter-finals against either Athletic Bilbao or Roma is the prize. Roma are 2-1 up in that tie. They scored late on in the first leg last week. We'll see if they get through. And we'll also see what happens with Lazio as well, because if the 2 Rome clubs go through, then the tie switched. So Rangers would have the little bonus ball of playing the second leg of the quarterfinals at home, as they're doing in this round. So that would be a little bonus for them. Listen, it's going to be a huge night, as always. European nights are always a bit special. And this one at Ibrox, Rangers against Fenerbahce. The Ibrox side, 3-1 up from last week's first leg in Turkey. It's all we've got time for, though, on the Scottish Football Podcast. My thanks to Tom English and Michael Grant, and thank you for listening. Sports Sounds on air from 6 o'clock. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff. Rangers against Fenerbahce in the second leg of the last 16 tie in the Europa League. And remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day. So to make sure you don't miss out, subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. That's all for now. Enjoy the game.
on BBC Sounds. From life aboard a Russian submarine to chairman of Hearts Football Club.
At this stage, he was the hero.
But as his controversial decisions escalated,
they said, we're going to sack George. And I'm going, you can't do this.
How did Vladimir Romanov go from Hearts saviour to a wanted man?
It caused a whole load of chaos and havoc.
Romanov, Tsar of Hearts. Listen now on BBC Sounds.